very bullish for the long term for gold for a whole lot more reasons.
So based on what you're saying, because this also dovetails with the fact that, rising economic powers in Asia, Middle East, and the commodity bloc essentially are rejecting Western fiat currencies. You've got China, India, Russia all buying gold on a large scale. Even Sri Lanka stepped in to buy gold on a pretty big scale this week. So the question, do you think the fiat paper money system has failed or is in the failing process where perhaps we go back to a gold standard or gold actually becomes money?
Well, gold is money. We should never forget that. It's very much used as a medium. It's where people feel the safest in plenty of places around the world outside of the United States. I do believe one of the things that the undertone to this that a lot of people have not copped onto and what the decision has been made by the people that hold those dollars is that rather just to put them into some paper savings mechanism, they have recognized that, listen, China, one of these days we need to use more copper. One of these days we need to use more oil. One of these days we're going to need more and more commodities. So you know what? Instead of taking our excess reserves and parking it all in treasury bills or something, let's buy these commodities that we're going to eventually need, and at least we have something hard asset to count on versus a continuing decline in the paper asset. It's one of the reasons why the commodity market has a much firmer, strong undertone going forward, and why we didn't see a much bigger correction in commodity prices given how slow the worldwide economy came, is because people are recognizing in many instances there isn't enough commodities for the growth that's taking place worldwide, especially regarding population.
So let's talk first what impact that has on America, and then we'll go back into commodities going forward. But if that's the case, if these emerging countries, these rising economic powers now are not going to the U.S. dollar and going to increasingly be buying commodities, what impact does that have on the investor at the end of the day? Rising interest rates, their mortgages, what impact realistically? And are we in the middle of potentially maybe not, we're not in the middle of a momentum phase for gold, but is it a possibility that we're in the midst perhaps of a civilization shift where we're going to see a completely different game going forward, and that's going to have a significant impact on Western investors?
Oh yeah, much more. I've spoken about a demographic change that's coming in the world many times, but I do want to emphasize this, and really for the first time speak about this. This will be the first time I bring it to readers and listeners' attentions. So it is a first for this conference. I believe, and this is truly the first time I'm saying this, I believe as much as equities became a very good bearish target at the top of the market in 2007, I believe in this time period where I'm looking to go bearish again, that bonds are going to become as an attractive negative play. I don't see how. In fact, I'd be more than willing for someone to try to explain to me, given the entire amount of debt that we created, given the entire amount of debt that now exists in the world, how one could expect U.S. interest rates can basically stay at 1 or 2% over the next several years. I think that's an impossibility. And if I'm right, the bond market is going to lose over the next couple of years, and betting against the bond market is going to be a play. So that is a paradigm shift, so to speak, certainly in my thinking, and something that I'm going to speak about in the coming days and weeks. In terms of your demographics, you're very much onto something. There's a tremendous shift underway that I've spoken about in recent months on the blog. It's controversial in that some people view it as somewhat politically incorrect, but it's a fact of life that people have to get accustomed to. And that is, in terms of spiritual way of thinking in the world, Islam is moving and will be replacing Christianity as the number one belief in the world. And with that comes a different way of looking at finances that currently that the Western world looks at. In fact, this recent news on Dubai will be an interesting test case. One of the things I think you'll see is that more of the Muslim world will basically slap Dubai's hand for acting too much like a capitalist, and you'll see Dubai retreat and come more like other Middle East countries that still have a conservative nature when it comes to capital. And that is a big shift that's taking place that people have to recognize. But within that shift, you have to also realize that the United States is no longer the economic world power. And with that, you just can't continue to have your portfolio overweighted in U.S.-based investments. If you're not invested as much in China and India and Brazil as you are in the U.S., if not more, then over time, I think your portfolio will greatly underperform others.
Is it safe to say that American investors, in particular, should be perhaps deleveraging themselves, because carrying a high level of debt over the next couple of years is going to bring significantly bigger service costs as rates go up? Is that something that investors should be very keenly aware of?
Absolutely. Debt is, without a doubt, the dirtiest of four-letter words, particularly for Americans. It is what we've used to party way beyond, and as I described, live beyond our means, and for what I was banging the table on before the top of the market, and that was simply that America had been robbing Peter to pay Paul, and Peter's tapped out. We've just gone beyond any measurable way of continuing a lifestyle that's unaffordable. We can no longer continue to do that. So one of the things that will take place over the coming years, and why I've tried to use the last 20 years of the Japanese stock market and the economy as a guide to what it could look like in the United States. Japan peaked over 41,000 in their market in 1989. It has been, up until now, the second biggest economy in the world, soon to be replaced by China and fall to third. But it's been the second biggest. Yet for 20 years, the market, while it did have rallies, worked its way lower to a point where it lost almost 75% from those highs in 1989. And at the same time, its economy has underperformed most world economies for years. That's what's coming as far as I'm concerned in the United States. We're not going to close up business. We're not going to close up shop. But it's going to be more and more difficult for most people to prosper. And because of that, our economy will underperform many of the other world economies, and our stock market will underperform as well.
And if I'm following your logic at that point, then one of the ways that the U.S. hopes to work its way out of debt is through growth. But if you're saying that we're going to have stunted growth and people are going to be spending less money, then they can't count on that as a method of decreasing debt, which goes back to potentially having to increase interest rates. So where does gold go through all this? Do we get back to our inflation adjusted highs of $2,200-$2,300?
I think that's in the cards. I don't think it's in the next year. And if it did come in the next year, that means some of the high-risk things that we didn't discuss, some of the geopolitical concerns I have might have taken place. But the word that I think people are going to have to get accustomed to, it has not been used since the 1970s, but I think it's going to become a word as we get into 2011 and beyond that's going to be used to describe the American economy, and that is that we're in stagflation, that we're going to see higher rates of inflation, yet we're not going to see strong economic growth. And with that will come more and more interest in gold because of the inflation factor, because of the poor economics, and of course the geopolitical concerns which we did discuss. They're all going to underpin gold at a time when gold supply continues to decline, and we see more and more people using it as an investment tool versus just some insurance hedge, hoping things don't, go haywire.
All right, let's go into a bit of a rapid-fire mode, but I want you to touch on these geopolitical. Give us a minute on this potential geopolitical risk that seems right now to be out of the public's mind. What do you see as geopolitical risk?
The biggest is the inevitable confrontation with Iran. That's coming, unfortunately. How it comes and who's involved, it's not yet known, but we're going to have a military confrontation there. Second, and just behind that, is other areas in the Middle East and people that are involved regarding Israel. Third is Pakistan, and the stability of Pakistan could become more questionable, and because of that and the nuclear weapons it has, that could become an issue, and then just other geopolitical hotspots around the world. But it's Iran first, the Middle East itself second, and Pakistan third as the three geopolitical concerns that we will see more and more about, unfortunately, as 2010 and 2011 take hold.
Now, in all fairness, just play devil's advocate. Haven't those always been geopolitical concerns? Also, what's different now versus the last 10 years?
Something